I wanted to do a video about this for a while, like which races have performed best and players in the history of Warcraft, and the patch changes that there has been, the balance changes in the history of Warcraft 3. So we're gonna start at the beginning. In 2002, after the game came out, there was mostly tournaments, I think in South Korea back then with, I think it was Prime League or like one league on GameNet. And this is Reign of Chaos, by the way. And that year, the highest earning player was Medusa, who won the GameNet League. So there was 2 TV leagues, and there was EPS as well. And I believe he beat Elki in the finals of this. So we're gonna have a look at like the tournaments. So yeah, it was Season 1, then Season 2. Then the hand beat, oh my god, he finished podium, all 3 of them. So this is the handbits of MBC Warcraft 3 First League. And some guy who plays random actually won. I don't even know who Shu is. I just remembered from them like Showtime. But yeah, Medusa took 2nd place playing human. This guy randomed all kind of races. Oh my god, there is some VODs. But yeah, back then the game was like, if you crept, you could crypt past level 5. You could crypt to level 6. So it was like who was the best heroes pretty much. The best heroes were Demon Hunter and then Archmage and Mountain King. So Human against Elf was just a creep fest. And then whoever got level 6 and like did well in the game just won, basically. It was kind of wild that you could creep a demon to level 6. It was changed later on that. That's the first one, where a random player won. Then the second one, Medusa won against Elki in the finals. Elki, like, I think he had just picked up Warcraft 3 and he was going Demon Hunter mass hunts on every map and then just creeping the demon to level 6, and he made the finals before losing to Medusa. And the third one was Jojo, and Night Elf won over Medusa. So yeah, first year of Warcraft 3. This is, by the way, this number is wrong here at the top always. This includes everything, including team leagues. So this is for solo only, I think. Race earning distribution. So even though Medusa won 28k, that was pretty much all for human. And then human and Night Elf were pretty much tied first year. And then Undead's behind and an Orc way behind. And then this is random. So like that guy who won the tournament with random probably scored a lot for random players. Yeah, so that's 2002. Now let's check 2003. It seems like Night Elf did the best. And 2003, I think maybe mid-2003 is when Frozen Throne got released, right? So this might not all be Reign of Chaos, but maybe mostly. And that year we have Night Elf on top, then followed by Human, then followed by Orc, and then Undead last. And then NEP actually won the most. He won probably the NBC, yeah. He won 2 TV leagues in Korea. And then Insomnia won WCG against China Human in the finals. Deathfly did well in 2 of the NBC game tournaments. I'm guessing The Pig won EPS, 14k. Holy shit, that's insane. Yeah, a lot of household names in there. I think that was the year also where they nerfed Ancient of Wars, because Ancient of Wars used to be like completely broken in like, I think the year before that, or maybe early that year, where like they were unkillable. So that was some tournaments initially added rules that you couldn't make that many Ancient of Wars to be aggressive with, but instead you just had to keep them parked at home. And then I think Blizzard just kind of like nerfed that. When you uprooted Ancient of Wars, they died way quicker after that. So yeah, that year it was Night Elf, then Human. That's 2003. Then 2004. These are like, I would say, probably some of the years. I would say like 2003 to 2007, 2008 is, in my opinion, the years where there was the most players. There was so many players. There was tournaments like WCG that had like 40 plus players. It seemed like the player base was at its biggest, I would say. And I think the reason we're seeing human do well back then is like I explained earlier, like you could creep to level 6 before that was changed, but also the map pool. There was always like Lost Temple, Tranquil Path early on, then later on they got phased out, and then eventually they added like Echo Isle and then Terna Stand, and these are like some of the best human maps of all time, at least on the previous patches. Let's look at 2004. Damn, 566k, that's a lot of money. This year is actually pretty equal, look at this. This is as close as you're gonna get to perfect balance ever, really. Human 116, behind them Undead 112, then Night Elf 111, and then 105 for Orc. That's like 11k difference between first and last. That's kind of sick. That was the year, I believe, where I think Destroyers were OP for a little bit, and then FOV won ESWC, where Destroyers were just like wrecking everyone. It was like literally all Undeads in playoffs pretty much, and then both humans got wrecked. But I think that also got addressed pretty quickly after that, because it was just so broken, and a lot of people are like outraged. And back then, Blizzard cared about WarCraft 3. But that did get changed. That's the year Grubby won WCG, scoring big for the Orcs. Matt Frog did well in various tournaments. Mew seems like he won EPS. Zakard was also doing very well. A lot of names in there. Then came 2005. 640k, still a very high number. And again, it's mostly equal between 3 races. Just Night Elf stands on top by quite a big margin here, 211k. Then it's Human, immediately behind is Orc, and then Undead trailing a little bit further behind Orc and Human. But Elf definitely doing really good that year. Mostly due to this guy, Moon, crushing it in every tournament, WG and stuff. Robbie also doing well, and then Sky carrying it for the humans. Sweet and Ghost Up. It's pretty cool to see 4 races here in top 4, actually. Way more diversity. In 2006. 724k. It keeps going up. Matt Frog was the guy who invented Dota. No, you're thinking about Ice Frog. 2006, Human did really good, 221k, and then Night Elf 177, and then Orc and Undead close together. Orc 109, Undead 100k. And this was due to Sky did a killing, then Grubby, Moon, 3 of the goats. I was a bit behind, but that was a pretty good year for me. Lukael, Sweet behind, Deadman up there. Mew probably did well in EPS. Nilk Narf actually did pretty good. Yeah, a lot of old school names. 2007. Holy shit. What happened here? They took everything for themselves, the Night Elves. 430k almost. Is that more? Yeah. That is more than everybody else combined. What the fuck happened that year? Yeah, Moon decided that there was no messing around anymore. He just like won everything, or close to. That he was at least. I think, yeah, this Digital Life was like an absurd high price, but I think they didn't pay him though. Oh, actually, that's not the one. Oh, there was all these show matches that he won, but I didn't think they had such high price pool. 10k! Wait. Holy shit, that is... Okay. I guess there was a lot of money to be made from it. Still, that's an insane year for playing video games, imagine. So yes, Humans still behind Elf this year, and then Orc, then Undead this one. That was a big year. I think maybe 2007 was one of the biggest years ever of Warcraft 3 because 1 million. And honestly, I remember back then, it just seemed like there were so many people watching and playing the game. You could find game very easily at any time. There was just an insane amount of players. Let's check out 2008. 800k, so now it's going a little lower. Orc, they hadn't been at the top yet, had they? 250k now. And then we got Elf behind, then Human, then Undead. So Undead, historically, so far as we see, they've trailed behind for sure. It was mostly due to Lin, who really started wrecking very badly here. Won a lot, Grubby, third place, Moon, Infi and Sky here. Fly, yours truly. Yeah, lack of Undeads, only like Ted and Explode down there. 2009. Orc again. So 2 years in a row, Orc doing really good in solo tournaments. Followed by Human, then followed by Elves, and then Undead almost non-existent here. This is very, very low earnings. Tough times for them. Lin and Fly did all the carrying, then Sky, then Grubby. So that's 3 Orcs in top 4, and then Lucifron shortly behind as well. That's kind of sick, actually. I think that's the year I pretty much, I wasn't playing anymore. I retired. And actually, Orc was a big part of me like stopping to play, because he was Blade Master meta, which I found really boring. To have an invisible hero that walks through units, just talking you everywhere, doing crits, doing a lot of damage. And I didn't have so much fun with it anymore, so I decided to stop playing. But yeah, I think from this point I didn't follow the scene very closely anymore. But I think like this is like the Human years basically coming up, with like TH and stuff doing really good, which I didn't follow at all. 2010 looks like Night Elf did really well, then followed by Orc, then Human, and then Undead still last. Remind was on fire apparently in 2010. I think that's the year he won WCG probably. Infi and TH right behind. Lin still doing pretty well. Moon, Grubby, Sky. $2011. Yeah, it's, now you see, actually, wait, what was it? 2010 had 400k. So you see, like now it's like, people use that term like the game is dead, but the game is like declining massively, right? There is a lot less happening. WarCraft 3 is probably not in most big tournaments anymore. But yeah, 200k. Remember, we had 1 million here like a couple years ago. Now we are back to 200k only. So 200k in 2011. 52k went to Orc. 38 to Night Elf. 32 to Human, and Undead 6k. That was due to TH Infi doing well, Fly, Lin, Moon, and Remind up there. And Sky was still kind of active, but I think he probably retired shortly after, I would guess. 2012, 100k. Okay, the game is like at its lowest in terms of tournaments and prize pool and everything. There's really not much happening, I'm guessing, 2012. And it's... Yeah, I guess StarCraft came out in 2011 as well, so a lot of people switched to that, and then tournaments wanted to have that. But yeah, Orc, almost 29k. Human, 23. Night Elf, 11. Actually, Undead, 3rd. Night Elf was dead last this year. But that's the least busy year of the game ever. So yeah, TH, Infi, Ted's carrying it for the Undeads. Lin, Fly, Sky. And then Remind still in there a little bit, but probably not very active. And not much price pool. 100k, that's very little for like a whole scene. 2013, 100k again. The dark times for the game. And it's somewhat not a big difference here. Orc 32, Night Elf 22, Human 22. So Night Elf, Humans stand together. Undead still behind. And yeah, still some of the usual names. TH, Lin, Infi, Yumiko, Moon. Yeah, this was some sad years. 100k only. 2014, 255. Okay, we're going back up a little bit here. Maybe there was some extra tournaments, and Human did fucking amazing. That must be the WCA year or something. 156k, so that's more than half. And Night Elf and Orc tied. Actually, all the other 3 races are kind of tied. They have almost the same. But fucking huge win here. More than double the total of all those 3 guys. That's nuts, actually. That was due to Infi just pummeling people, Yumiko and TH all doing really well. So these are like the very good times for Human. And this is 2014. So we have the patches here. And there was no patch. After 2011, there was no patch until 2018. So we're gonna get into those patches after to really understand like everything that happens. First, let's continue here with this. 2015, 240k. Human doing really good, followed by Orc, followed by Elf, and then Undead at bottom again. The players, Fly carrying it for the Orcs, then you have Yos and Infio. So that's the WCA here. Then Lowlight for the Elves, TH, Human, Yumiko, Human. So we're playing on the same patch here still as up until 2018, right? As we've established, 1.29. Unless this missed some patches, but I don't think so. Like 1.26 shouldn't be a balanced patch. These are all the only balanced patches. Yo, Hanky, thank you for the resub. Welcome back, mates. Okay, so we are at 2015 that we covered, right? Or yeah. Let's go to 2016. Okay, now we're talking. Almost half a milli. 449k. Almost 450k. Night Elves are at the top. Still same patch, by the way, as previous. Orcs in second place, and then Human. It's kind of weird because we're still playing on the same patch, supposedly, that we were the two years before, where Humans just crushed everyone. And then Undead still last. 2017, we have Night Elf. I mean, it's very equal, actually, between Orc, Elf, Human. Night Elf on top, Human behind Orc, and then Undead last. But not that far behind anymore. And then 2018, the year where a patch actually happens. Very small year again. 227k only. And it looks like Night Elf did the best, then Orc, then Undead, and then Human started doing a little worse. They are last this year, but not by a huge margin. So now we can start reading those patch notes. The one that happened in 2018, right? Up until this point, Human and Elf have been the most successful races. In tournaments, Undead has been the worst. There must have been... Are we sure there was no patch before this? Like 1.26? Because this is... If I do balance patches here, there's... It cuts off here. It's 1.25b and then it jumps to 1.29. I will try to open... Yeah, see, no, okay, it was just a couple fixes. Yeah, so it is correct. So yeah, 1.29 was the first time there was a balance patch in a while. And that's when they increased the move speed of all the strength heroes, I think. I was playing again here. I was streaming, I believe. But then they reduced Stormbolt damage from 225 to 210. And then on level 3 from 350 to 325. But they buffed Clap. They made Clap really good. Yeah, they increased the speed here as well. And then they nerfed Divine Shield. I think Divine Shield used to be like really, really good. It lasted probably way too long, so... But I would say... I think it's good they didn't change level 1. But yeah, 30 to 25... Yeah. And then 45 was probably absurd. I'm not sure how I feel about 30 to 25. I feel like if you reach Divine Shield level 2, you should be invulnerable for a long time. Because like this, the main thing is like this is against Undead, where you're really scared your hero's gonna get nuked. Yeah, Blade Master, they started buffing Mirror Image for it to be used a bit more. And yeah, they nerfed crits with this thing. They buff the Farseer quite a bit. So that's why basically you went from the meta where you would see Blade Master every single game to seeing a lot more Farseer basically in that time. So level 1 Wolves from 200 to 250 hit points. And then on level 2, 3 to 350. And then they give less XP as well. And yeah, as well here. They removed the mana cost from Farsight, but right, nobody cares. Chain Lightning reduced damage reduction from 15 to 10% per turn for a little. They buffed the wards a bunch. The Serpent wards, that doesn't really concern a human, but against Elf, I guess it helped. And then they increased Storm's damage. The Crypt Lords got a big buff. I think we remember that patch, don't we, guys? The Beetles got a health increase, and then Impale became broken as fuck. Big damage increase as well. The Dreadlord got buffed a whole bunch. Carrion Swarm, look at the damage difference. 100 already on level 1, 100 on level 2, and then 200 on level 3. That's just insane. This wasn't the sale patch yet, though. Oh, okay. We'll get into that, but yeah, that's already a buff. Sleep, cooldown reduced. They buff Vampiric Aura a little bit as well. Lich also got a movement speed increase. They nerfed mana burn slightly and put it on 60 mana. I guess people were whining a lot about Demon Hunter. And then they buffed the Keeper a whole bunch. Value from 18 to 19. Tranquility got a 3 seconds invuln, which is just so stupid, I think. Yeah, they doubled the healing, but then they lowered to 15 seconds. So it's like almost like a burst healing with like a very short cooldown anyway. They increased strength, attack damage. Priestess got buffed a little bit. They nerfed the Warden's Blink, right? Reduce cooldown from 10 seconds to 7 seconds. Oh, they nerfed the Blink level 2. Oh, they buffed the Blink level 2, reduce cooldown from 10 to 7, and then they increased the one on level 3 from 1 to 4. I mean, 1 second is absurd. They buffed Life Drain, then they buffed a couple of the neutral heroes here. The Panda only got speed. Interesting to note. So that was 1.29.0, April 2018. Now we go to August. And Archmage got nerfed a bunch. That was a big... This is like one of the most important patches, I think, that affected WarCraft 3 in recent times. They decreased the hit points of Wet Elemental, but gave them more damage, and they nerfed Brilliance. So on level 2, instead of doing 1.5, it does 1.25, which is pretty big in my opinion. It's always been like one of the most important things that makes it so that you have to open Archmage. Level 3 was decreased from 225 to 1.75, so that's huge as well. They buffed Mastery a bit. I mean, I don't know why. Maybe people kept forgetting units or something. And then Mount King got some huge nerfs here. Level 2 damage reduced from 210 to 200. Level 3 damage reduced from 325 to 310. That makes a big difference, I think, when it's like such an important hero. That does a lot for you. And the Clap got like nerfed a bunch with the damage. Blademaster's agility got lowered. So basically now they're really pushing orcs towards Farseer a lot more with the buffs on Farseer and the nerfs on Blademaster. Change Farsight. Nobody gives a fuck. Nobody uses it almost ever. The Demon Hunter lost a bit of agility. Ulti got nerfed also a little bit, 15 seconds less, instead of having the whole minute. Then Keeper Force of Nature reduced mana cost from 125 to 100. They keep buffing the Keeper as well. So they're pushing people away from Demon towards Keeper and away from Blades towards Farseer a lot more. Alchemist was kind of stupid, I think, with his previous buff, so I'm glad that they lowered this a little bit as well. Breath of Fire, all levels, increase mana cost from 70 to 75. And now they reduce damage over time. So yeah, it seems like with Panda, they just didn't know what to do. They buffed it, nerfed it, buffed it, nerfed it. So now race changes. Flying Machines got changed pretty massively. They got a bunch more hit points. They went from 200 to 250. But their increase in gold cost is pretty big, I think. Because it went from 90 to 100. And they got a little bit of extra damage against air. So they became much more of like these anti-air units. Like before you used to see them as like sieging also kind of in some games. They became this anti-air unit that costs more gold, has more HP, but does a bit more damage against air. Militia got lowered from 45 to 40 seconds. And then rifles started attacking quicker, which was changed also much later on. They decreased the radius of mortar a little bit. And then they changed Dispel. They changed cast range to, like, they increased it a little bit, but they added a cooldown. So that people wouldn't spam Dispel like we used to dispel everything that was on the screen. That's when the priest started becoming a little bit stupid. They increased the siege tank supply cost from 3 to 4, which made the siege tanks way worse, I think. Because like you want to stay on 50 with your first few tanks for a long time, ideally, and then now if you reach 80, you have quite a few less tanks as well. The spell still doesn't really matter, I think. And then they gave frag shot to cannon towers, which you never really see. They nerfed cavalry towers a little bit. I think that's because there was too many tower rushes historically, so they made the lumber cost a little bit higher, and they reduced the stock in the arcane vaults from 3 to 2. So now you can only buy 2. I like this. I was never a big fan of like tower rushes and stuff. I would say that overall the towers are very underwhelming though. And then they gave a bunch of buff to the Orb of Fire. They increased the splash radius, hero bonus damage, but they also raised the price a little bit. Flak cannons, they put it on tier 2 to make it easier to defend against like mass destroyers and all that kind of bullshit. And yeah, frag shot also got some nerf. And then they increased the masonry cost at every level. Troll Berserker increased hit points from 450 to 475. So this is where the Headhunters became really broken as well. Increased gold cost from 135 to 140. So 5 more golds, and then they got, I think, 4 or 5 buffs. So this is one of them when they're Berserker. The basic hit points got raised by 25, and then the regen went from 0.08 to 1.0, and then range 450 to 550. Like this has to be one of the most absurd overall change of all time, I think, for a unit in WarCraft 3. Like they went from being really average to being one of the best units in the game. They wanted people to use shamans more, so they increased the hit points 335 to 350. They increased their damage. They increased their mana regen, and they reduced the mana cost of Bloodlust and Purge. Like, I feel like no unit should ever get like 5 buffs like this. This is just wrong. Like, you're just over-buffing it if you do that, basically. They changed the Walker to now be made in the Totem. Doctors got a little bit of a buff. Yeah, they did some weird stuff here. Reduced the lumber cost of Spirit Lodge. Scroll of Speed no longer applied to Goblin Sappers. That's mostly about undeads getting their ziggurats blown up. Reinforced Defense. Unlock with Stronghold instead of Fortress. So they took a tier 3 upgrade, which was one of the most important ones, and they put it on tier 2. Like easily reachable and accessible. And they even reduced the lumber cost. They reduced the lumber cost by 25. They increased the gold. The gold you always have plenty of. It's the lumber that's you always lack. So now they made it like super accessible, and that's something that's like also something really sick. Like once you research that, your base is just not attackable compared to like anybody else's base. It's just nuts that they put this on tier 2, as strong as it was before when it was on tier 3. I think that's also one of the worst changes that really overbuffed orcs quite a bit, in my opinion. Spike barricades got lower, the lumber reduced as well. And now we're getting into the real juicy parts. Undead balance changes. Undead historically, they were this race that has really good nuke, very good heroes, but their base kind of sucks. You know, if you go to an undead base, you can kill the Ziggs with the Sapper. You can kill Acolytes very easily. They're not very well protected. And they're also not very good at expanding either because, you know, the expansion, it's very exposed. You go there, you kill it, the towers die quickly, the acolytes die quickly, the gold mine can get cancelled, it takes a long time to build. That's where they decided to just go completely fucking crazy with Undead. So Acolyte base dice increase hit points from 220 to 230, increase hit point regen on blights from 2 to 4 per second, increase armor from 0 to 1, 6% damage reduction, increase movement speed from 220 to 250. So I told you, like, there is no unit that should ever get 4 buff or 5 buff. Like, this is just stupid. Even 3 would already be a lot. But now they're getting 4 buff on this. So Acolytes became 1,000 times better. They lowered the hit points of the Destroyer a little bit. And damage as well. Nerfed a little bit Frostworm. And they 4 buff for the Necros, by the way. Which, how often do you see Necros? There is really only one race that can get screwed by this. That's human. But yeah, they buffed Necros a whole bunch. Skeleton Warrior. Like, this is still Necromancers, by the way. It's not just these 4 buffs. It's this. They remove 50 hit points from statues. I mean, that's nice, but they're still, like, really hard to kill and way too good because they come out with, like, so much mana already. And now Undead expansion. So Haunted Goldmine, reduced Blight Radius from 960 to 768. Who cares? But reduced cost to 225 gold and 210 lumber. So it's cheaper than before. Necropolis, also lower price. Reduced build duration of the Necropolis from 100 to 90 seconds. Ziggurats, one of the few weaknesses of Undeads, hit points from 550 to 600. So now once Sapper doesn't kill them, they survive with a little bit of hit points and can be repaired. And Orb of Corruption lost 1 armor reduction. Sacrificial Skull no longer requires Graveyard to purchase. That's what made it very hard to expo, is that you need Sacrificial Skull. If you don't get it, you just get your expo cancelled. But now that you don't have to get Graveyard, you can afford everything. You just buy a Sacrificial Skull, drop it, get a tower, Ice Tower, that's it, unattackable. They buffed Book on the Dead a little bit, because it was underwhelming, I guess. Changed Cannibalize. We see it sometimes, but not that often. And then Disease Clouds increase damage from 1 to 2 per second, reduce duration from 120 to 90 seconds. This is insane. Like, this makes Disease Clouds so fucking amazing. Orcs are not so concerned about Aboms because they got Kodos. Night Elves are not so worried about Aboms because they got Bears, or they play Fairy Dragons, or they play Chimps. But humans, we're the ones that have to face this fucking shit. And we get completely screwed by this. So yeah, this is a big change against human. It might not seem like much, but trust me, this means a lot. And then they still kept on changing a little bit of the Necromancers here. Buffing them even more. Night Elf balance changes. Yeah, Archers felt like they were dying quickly, so they put 260. That was a meta where we saw a lot of Archers being spammed and made and doing really well. Chim reduced the splash. Bears got a decrease. Base damage also. And they tried to change the Talon also so that we would stop seeing mass Talon against Orc every single game. So they increased the cost from 135 to 150. That's a big nerf against Orc. So they became more of a caster, like support unit, basically. Verify reduced direction units 90 to 70. Reduce heroes from 60 to 40. They nerfed Abolish a little bit. Glaive Throwers got buffed. Huntresses got like these weird changes. Moonglaive on tier 2 instead of tier 3. Sentinel was researched by default, which was completely stupid. And then Mountain Giants, from 425 to 350, decreased supply from 7 to 6. That's insane. Don't now activate the second time after 3 seconds. That was one of the worst changes ever, also the Mountain Giants. But cooldown was increased by 1 second. Oh, boo-hoo. Hippograve Taming is researched by default. Increase hit points. They reduced the hit point of Ancient of War a little bit. And the base attack damage, but they're still amazing to creep with in start. They removed the Sentinel upgrades, because it was researched by default. They buffed Protector a little bit. I mean, Protectors, they've always been kind of underwhelming. And they increased the mana regen at night from 1.25 to 150 on Moonwells, which is wild. Moonwells is just amazing. That was a long patch. This was... the 1.30.0. There was 4 patches in 2018. So before we do the next one, actually, I will take a break quickly. I'll be right back and then we'll continue. Be right back.